I'll go right ahead just to keep going on time, but it's an honour to join with you and share the story. My name is Mark Duffy from the west coast of Ireland, a little small town called Ballina. And I'm here to talk to you about the Great Convent Revival, as we call it. So the Great Convent Revival is in our hometown in Ballina, which is right on the west coast of Ireland. I was elected as a councillor in 2019. More recently, I became mayor of the town. This is my family, big family of 13 kids, so if you're wondering how I got elected, the volume is the reason. But Ballina, that's right across the road from my hometown at St. Patrick's Well, has very rich ecclesiastical history. St. Patrick spent a lot of time in this area, and his footprint is all over. Maybe 30 minutes from here is Downpatrick Head, named after said St. Patrick. And right along the river that flows through our town, we have four old monasteries. This is the Augustinian Monastery, built in 1425, Rosserk Friary, 1460, Moyne Abbey, 1462, and Rathfran Abbey in 1274. So right back in the middle of town, we have St. Muirlex Cathedral, which was one of the only cathedrals that was built pre the Irish potato famine. So the famine was in 1845 in Ireland. Had a huge and profound impact on the story of the Irish people. 1 million people died, 1 million people emigrated to the United States. And it's great to be celebrating the Irish connection here, and with the win yesterday in Notre Dame was very good. But the Sisters of Mercy, in response to the devastation that the potato famine caused in Ireland, located to Ballina, and were an incredible force for good in the community, in education and in healthcare, and helping those most in need. They built this beautiful old historic convent in 2009. Unfortunately, it closed after 170 years of contribution to those most in need within my town. Since it's closed, it was closed without a legacy plan, unfortunately, and it's been left to time. So there's severe deterioration within the building, and this is a building that people in the town have a real fond relationship with, great memories, because of the contribution that the building, and more importantly, the people inside it made to the area. So it's a beautiful old building, and spending time even this afternoon after Mass in the old hall, it kind of reminded me the roof space at the top of Notre Dame's hall. But beautiful architecture, deteriorating at the moment. So in 2022, while mayor of Ballina, I was contacted by one of the Sisters of Mercy. I've been very active in grassroots in the community. We co-founded a community group, picking up litter, planting flowers, biodiversity, painting up old tired buildings. So one of the sisters contacted me and said, is there anything you can do with this beautiful old convent that they have such affinity to? So over the last 2 years, we've been meeting with and discussing the regeneration project with the sisters, who are at maybe a more elderly stage of their life. So like I said, it's a 30 square foot convent, and the sisters have recently over the summer agreed to gift this property, this site, back to the people of Ballina and the community. So it's 30,000 square feet. It includes an old gate lodge to the entrance of the building. It includes and is adjacent to a high school. So there's these buildings were only closed maybe in the last 18 months, and the old graveyard, which really tells the story right from day one, and is very essential to the convent building itself. So this is an aerial view. The area outlined in blue is the 4-acre site that the sisters are gifting to the community, and I've led the formation of a new entity that's recently been incorporated to accept ownership of the building. And right next to it is the high school that has just closed down, and they've relocated to the top left hand corner. Again, the sisters facilitating through a gift of that site. So it's a very strategic site, right in the middle of town, walking distance. Made a huge contribution, and unfortunately has closed. But the exciting part and the opportunity is the potential to go back and serve the people of the town. So we've been working with Notre Dame's Church Property Initiative to learn, and that's why it's great to be here today. We've also worked with University College Dublin. University College Dublin have led a funding application, and were successful with the European Commission, really prestigious competition. We're partnering up with Milan in Italy, which is great. Obviously, it's a big city. We're a small town, maybe 10,000 people, so it's nice to mix it with Milan. Milan have buildings there that are old industrial buildings. Ballina, we have church property, and that's ubiquitous across all Irish towns. And Elfsina is in Greece, and they have farm buildings that are all historic in terms of their identity and their history, but no longer have a use. So the idea in the project here is to learn how to regenerate church property in Ballina, in Ireland's case, to be repurposed to serve the community. So that's a little bit more detail on it, and it's just began. And that the idea of this project is to create a master plan for the site, understand how we can reconnect it back into the community, and so that's really encouraging in terms of the master plan, the longer term regeneration of the site. In the short term, we want to reactivate the buildings to the rear of the convent. So we have 3 social enterprises, one social enterprise and 2 not-for-profit groups. One that works with an ethnic minority group within town, another that works in youth outreach, and they're all located in substandard buildings that are where the landlord is, pushing up the rent every year, and they're on short-term leases. So immediately, we have a meeting next week right on site with one group. We'll give them a long-term lease on the buildings that recently closed down to the back of the convent. It means that they'll be able to apply for capital funding through their national organisations and through government. So we've been empowered in terms of entrusted with this property. Immediately we're passing it over to those groups to reactivate to the back. The longer-term regeneration is of the convent building. We see great potential in terms of telling the story of the Sisters of Mercy, so that it's not forgotten, not lost to time. A diocesan museum, reviving the old chapel that you saw there. That's something we're very excited about, because parents of the town got married, and they have a story and an affinity to this building. But it can also be multi-purpose in terms of use as a concert hall and for entertainment. We would love to create performance art space, artists in residence space, recording studios, to give those potentially from as far away as the US, those across Ireland, time to spend there with the best and state-of-the-art equipment, potentially from disadvantaged groups that need that space. And same in the US, I'm sure, but in Ireland there's a real housing crisis at the moment. So we can use this as an asset to shield those talented people from the effects of the housing crisis. Youth outreach, a restaurant and cafe on site, potentially at the Gate Lodge. So now we're inviting people back in, that it's part of their community and their neighbourhood again. Educational, residential, and many social enterprises. So that's a whistle-stop tour in terms of the revival of the convent building. I just want to put on record our thanks to Notre Dame, to the whole team here. They've been really helpful in terms of supporting and being an ally to this project. And please God, we'll be back in a few years with the lights on and the stained glass windows and a revived and living convent again. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Do you want to take a couple questions maybe?
Sure.
And I've had the opportunity on trips over there to actually see the site and get a tour, and actually that picture doesn't do it justice, because it's not in good shape. So part of what we're doing is kind of thinking about a potential case study of, obviously you weren't involved on the early stage in terms of how it should have been preserved and shuttered. It was not done the right way. Lots of water damage. It's when you see the chapel there, it makes your heart break and ache for the sisters, and the cemetery. The sisters have also given us a tour. So it's an and that's just one of many hundreds of properties like that in Ireland. So I think there's a real opportunity for the church and for UCD and Notre Dame to actually contribute. So and Mark is part of the key of the case study will be that having a mayor like Mark who kind of understands like how this could actually be repurposed right? Like not every place has that, so kind of the bishop loves you, the sisters love you, everybody in the town love you at the pubs. So like having somebody well positioned like that strategically is part of the thing. But
I'll get you a pint after, Dan. Thanks for that. Sorry, you're going ahead.
Quick question, so is the EU paying for the whole thing? Are they your cash?
No, the EU are funding €600,000, and that would be not on capital works, unfortunately. So that's our challenge in the short term. We've a new entity. I've made an allocation of €45,000, which will just give the initial runway. But to stop the deterioration, the water ingress, repair the roof, the rainwater goods, the windows, it could be at least maybe 400,000 or 500,000 immediately. But that will stop. It's like turning a ship. So that will stop the water ingress, and that will buy us time for the EU-funded longer-term master plan that we can then target for the capital funding. But this entity that's accepting ownership will also have 3 rent-paying organisations that were being squeezed in town.
Yeah.
Now we can empower them, so that's also going to contribute to the entity in terms of some rent-paying organisations.
But you'll do a massive fundraising campaign.
That's we need all the help. So that's part of why I'm here as well. If you have ways that you think you might like to collaborate, whether it's through architecture, whether it's through fundraising or support, we would love as much help as possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, how replicable is it? Like if all the small towns could do it, or it needs to be towns of 10 to 50,000 people, and you tweak it? Can you do that 300 times or 100 times?
For sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really like the sisters have. They were blown away during the refugee crisis. So Ireland has accepted 90,000 Ukrainian refugees. So there were some convents that just closed, and they were instantly revived. And they were blown away that the community stepped in and brought these back to life. So they understand now that when people are empowered, they don't need to carry the weight or the burden of these properties. That if they empower communities like they're empowering us with this site, great things can happen. So of the ones that are still in church ownership, definitely we can replicate this, and that's part of what we'd like to do is understand the process and then have a living example so that now we can point to, because part of my frustration in conversations is I've got the dream, I've got the vision, and it's hard to point the finger at a living model or example. So because it's a big decision for them to make, but indecision has caused multi-million euro deterioration.
any final questions?
Is there so with the loss of ownership by the church, as you're putting together this, I hear a lot of shared goods kind of incarnated in this space between the Catholic world and the community. Is there an overall kind of strategy or plan around how to? Is there a, how to say it, a community building, or at least more like an evangelical aspect to this, like a missional aspect to it? Is there a way to re-engage a community for the same civilization, the same set of ideas that built this thing? Is it just repurposing for the sake of saving the building and making something nice for the town, or are we trying to revitalize something and bring them back in?
So the building will be multi-dimensional. I think on the top floor we can have residential, but on the ground floor we're going to bring back the chapel back to life.
Okay.
So that's the benefit there. I showed the other site, which is very strategically advantageous, the old high school. That could be potentially renovated as residential. So now you've got a place where you've got people living, and they've got their church right next door. But in terms of the mission, I would very much see that there are so many great people in our town who are willing to serve and contribute. They're all members of the church throughout town, and some of them are very much in part of social enterprises. So they're serving the mission and giving back to their community and their town through their social enterprises. So I think that a lot of these social enterprises are very much aligned with the work that the sisters did in terms of contribution to those most in need, those marginalised groups. This was their safe place, and this is their safe haven, and this will be once again. Thanks very much for listening. I really appreciate it.